the creative arc of an artist's life is sometimes measured not just by his performances or his oeuvre. It's also the way and the width, the breadth and the width of his collaborators, his friends, his acquaintances, the people who have watched him, whom he has watched, whom he has made bonds with, not specifically for the art, but using life and friends and experiences to actually feed into this crucible that was Astad. One of the individuals who was his very close friend is theatre director Sunil Shanbag. He is very, very famous from Mumbai and considered the iconic playwright Satyadev Dubey's Prathama Sishya. Well, Sunil and Astad have journeyed together, and we are now going to listen to him about his optic, his opinions, and why he thinks Astad and will always be somebody extremely special, very rare, and quite frankly, irreplaceable. So, Sunil Shanbag is a national award-winning film director in his own right, and he has, if you just look up his Wikipedia, you can see that he comes from an amazing family of activism and a proactive, politically very proactive family. There you are.
Hi, Anita.
Hello.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. That it happens. Insta Devi sometimes does that. So, Sunil, I mean, you by yourself are a whole conversation, but today we're celebrating Astad's birthday.
Absolutely.
And tell me about, just share with us some incidents. It's natural for me, of course, Sunil, you would be Astad's friend because he had so many interests, right? It was theater, cinema, visual arts, puppetry, painting, dance, costume, fashion, you name it, Right?
Yeah.
So what drew you to him?
Well, Anita, anybody who has been friends with Astad over a period of time will tell you that he had a way of drawing people to him, all right? I mean, when Astad decided that you were going to be his friend, you were his friend. That's it. I mean, he just, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was so generous in the way he embraced you in his fold, okay? And so, and this is my first encounter with him is very typical in the sense that I must have been in my mid-20s, okay? And Prithvi had just opened maybe 2 or 3 years prior, all right? We're talking about the late 70s, all right? It's a long time ago. And I used to hang around at Prithvi because, I just wanted to be around Prithvi all the time. It was such a wonderful, new, exciting space. So we hung around there. And I had come there one evening because I was told that a very interesting dancer had come, and it was a strange name. I had never heard the name before. Astad Debu, at first, it is a unusual name. And the images that were there on his, publicity were fascinating. So I just hung around there. I didn't have money to buy a ticket. I was just hoping that I'd be able to squeeze in somehow. And Prithvi was that way Jennifer used to be very open. She would allow us to go in there. And as I was standing around in the cafe, the lighting guy for that evening, who I knew because I used to do professional lighting as well, he came rushing and he said, "Oh, good, you're here. The guy who's operating the sound today isn't coming. And Astad needs someone to operate the sound." So sound meaning you played back the music for him to dance. And we used to play it off those old spool tape recorders, right? Yeah. So I said, "Kamlesh, I have no clue about what he's going to do." He said, no, you don't worry. I know everything. I will tell you start, you start. When I say stop, you stop. So on that strange assurance, I went into the light cabin and I was introduced very briefly to Astad. And he was, of course, tense before the show. So we just said, "Hello, thank you." And then it was time to start. And the lights went down and Kamlesh said, "Start." And I turned on the tape. And what came out of it was not music as I understood, music. It was a soundscape. It was a completely new idea of music. And then I looked over the ledge and I could watch Astad perform. And it was, I was really torn between paying attention to what my job was for that evening and watching this amazingly new experience of movement and dance. It's not music like I heard before. It's not dance like I've seen before. It was very, very different for me. And the evening proceeded all right until one point where Kamlesh got, in his so-called music or soundscape, there used to be gaps and silences.
Yeah.
And at one point, the silence was a bit long, and the lighting guy panicked and he said, "Oh, it's over, off, off, off." And he went into a blackout, and I turned the tape recorder off. And then from the darkness came Astad's very calm voice. "Can I have my sound and lights, please? I haven't finished." And oh my God, I said, how am I going to face this man? How am I ever? It was such a moment of despair for me that how close I was to get to know this guy. And look, I've messed up, and he'll never forgive me. But he was wonderfully calm. The audience thought it was part of the show, so they clapped. Like a Pavlovian response. Everybody clapped. All that happened, and after the show, the lighting guy got drunk and emotional. All that happened. But that day, Astad, he had decided that we were to be friends, and that's it. And after that, we were friends for life. Yeah.
And he traveled so much, Sunil, when he started getting, and I think that he found that he was getting more simpatico or opportunities outside India. So he was always, on the road. And I would marvel about how was he able to keep up these friendships, before the era of cell phones.
Yeah, on internet. I mean, on email. Look, wherever he was in the world, on your birthday, a birthday card would arrive by post, timed perfectly. I don't know how the hell he managed that. It would arrive either the evening before or on the day of your birthday, never
Wow.
late. So, this was always a secret. They were always beautiful cards, very beautiful, well thought through, well chosen cards. And I was in France once, and we met up in France. I was very young, and we were like really roughing it out. And after spending a few days with Astad in France, we were going back to London. And Astad said, "Can you carry something for me, please, to London? Because I'm coming there, pick it up for me." I said, "Sure, of course, no problem." So he gave me this bag, thick plastic bag, very heavy. It was really heavy. And I said, "Oh," he said, "Yeah, don't worry, you take it. I'll pick it up." And so, we really had to struggle with it. We came back, I kept it at home. Astad came to pick it up. I said, "Astad, what was in that bag that you gave me?" He said, "Look." I opened it. It was birthday cards. He was buying birthday cards, which then
Yeah.
the day
Whoops.
he
Hold
needed to
on.
have a stock of
You'll
cards.
come back. You'll come back.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. So birthday cards.
Yeah, birthday cards. So, for someone who was sending out 3 birthday cards a day, almost every day, he needed a lot
Wow.
of birthday cards. Yeah. So
Wow.
that's how Astad was. I mean,
Amazing. So that was the first time you saw him on stage. What was the last time you saw him on stage, Sunil? What was the last performance of his you saw?
last performance I think I saw, last formal performance was at our studio Tamasha.
Oh,
For the longest time we had wanted him to come, and he was busy, he was traveling. I mean, he was always very happy to come and perform, but it's
right.
actually connected to something else. My constant gripe with Astad used to be that, Astad, you don't perform enough in Bombay. Okay, you
Yeah.
need to perform more in Mumbai, because that's the only way you'll build an audience. That's the only way you'll. And he had his own reasons, of course. I mean, I'm not, but I used to, and every show, when you perform once a year, twice a year, every show then becomes a big event, and there are big
Yeah.
stakes. And it's a tense thing. As a dancer, when you're presenting your one big show of the year, how much work goes into it. So when we started running Studio Tamasha, which was a small space for about 30, 40 people could sit and watch a show, I said, "Please come and do that. Come and perform." And he said, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to." And, I've never seen him so relaxed before a show, because the stakes were very low. There was no
Yeah.
problem. He knew that it would be a very different viewing of his work. Uh, he really enjoyed, as usual, using the space. And in fact, I saw Ritam before you. And Ritam has taken some amazing photographs at his performance at, Studio Tamasha. And more important, Anita, was, at his age, when you are 3 feet away from an audience, they can watch every quiver of your body, every tense moment that your muscles are holding a position. It's a aging body. And I know how difficult it is to make yourself so completely vulnerable in front of an audience. But Asad was marvelous. I mean, he just did it. He said, "That's how it is. That's how I am. And that's how I'm going to dance." And he used to get such a warm reception from the audience afterwards in a kind of a, chat. And he loved talking to his audiences. So that's really the last time, and I'm glad that's the strongest memory we have of him. I think it was at his purest, at his purest in terms of his dance.
Because I know that you push for that minimalistic kind of, aesthetic where you really want the work to show without too much of
Yeah.
the bells and whistles, and Astad has been a master at bells and whistles. I've seen him on launch some fashion show, some product at a 5-star hotel, and then you say at a small 30-person in a small place at the Metropolitan Museum, which is really a small theater, and
Sure.
outdoors in Sangeet Natak Academy underneath the tree where we all waited for 2 hours because some part from the sound thing didn't come. But Astad was composed. All of us were willing to wait in that freezing
Yeah.
Delhi night because we knew that something special is going to unfold before us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
talk about that aging body and the control he had, Sunil. My big regret in a sense would be that Astad's pedagogy, of training the body to be always training, retraining, maybe cross-training, because we will agree he sort of reinvented himself, right, with every time thinking about what he wanted and hoping that would communicate. But you've known him for so long.
Sure.
You're talking from the 70s all the way up to 2020. Did he change, or were some things constant? What aspects of his personality stand out for you as a person and as a creative soul?
Well, it was a long association, so I've seen many different phases of his artistic journey. When he came, he was very influenced by what was happening in the West. So a lot of his early work was very dramatic, very theatrical. In fact, I think that is what first attracted me to him. He had a piece called Asylum where he would actually, plunge a hypodermic syringe into his arm, a drug addict. Or he had another piece called Ritual, where he held burning candles and poured hot wax all over his body. So that was his first phase. It was very theatrical work. Later on, when he discovered, I would say the whole question of minimalism comes when he discovered Dhrupad and he started working with that music, and it started helping him slow down. And that was an amazing period where everything became so still and so that's when you see he doesn't use many props. He's just using the body and form and the space around the body. He's creating magic with that space around his body. So he went through that. He went through a journey, and I think every solo performer, especially dancers, they have to constantly rework, because the body changes, your understanding of space changes, everything changes. And unlike theater people, you're not working with a script that somebody has written where there is that kind of support thing. You're really on your own, especially a solo performer. You're on your own, and it's lonely in a way, that journey. And I've seen him going through major ups and downs throughout that. Creative angst, not feeling the energy to create something new, and then suddenly there's a burst of excitement, and then something new emerges. So yeah, then of course all his choreography pieces with the Thanta dancers of Manipur, and made fairly complex choreography with 6-8 dancers. So I've been through all that. I've seen those phases. Yeah.
Yes, but you're very right, because I've also watched him when in his Unitard, very influenced by Merce Cunningham, Murray Nicolai, the American modern dance, and then even if the Tantra dancers were dancing around him, Sunil, he would be Zen-like, and even in that stillness, there was movement. So while your video is still buffering, I wanted to ask you another question, and that was, did he ever come to train with any of your actors? Or did he share some kind of movement vocabulary with your actors at some point? Because the way he thought is perfect for theater. The way Astad thought was perfect for theater. Okay. Your internet is lagging. Are you okay? Are you back?
I'm sorry, Anita, the line is very bad. For some reason, I can't hear you at all.
we
can't
can
hear you
go
very
off
well at all. I'm
and
sorry.
we can come back on. Your internet is slow. It's probably raining in Mumbai. Is it?
It is raining here. It is raining. It's quite dark and it's raining quite heavily. It may be because of
Okay.
that.
Well,
Can
no,
you hear slightly
no
better?
worry. Yes, yes, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
in terms of, because you have had also a very prolific and a very honored life in theater. You didn't actually work with Astad, right, on a production, or he didn't come to train your actors. Did that ever happen?
Well, Astad has actually danced in one of my productions very early on.
Okay.
I did a Vijay Tendulkar play called Cycle Wala, and he actually danced in that. He did several performances as one of the theatre company dancing, and of course he brought a amazing dimension to the play whenever he danced. Uh, he also he also choreographed an entire piece of his own with the actors of our company at that time for the Elephant Festival, dance festival. Okay, it was called
Ah,
Avan. Yeah. So it was very interesting because he said, no, I don't care if they don't know how to move. I will use them as actors and I'll use the actors' bodies. So there was a lot of verbalizing, there was a lot of that, and very tough. Oh man, the actors didn't know what hit them when they always thought that I was difficult, but when they had worked with Astad, they were like, they said, oh well, this is another kettle of fish here. Because he used to really drive them, and it was fantastic because it was an amazing opportunity for the actors. So yeah, we did do some work together, but most of our time was mostly talking, bouncing ideas, discussing the possibilities of new shows. I used to also light a lot of his shows. I used to actually travel with him as a lighting person as well. So yeah, it was like it was all kind of mixed.
what do you think, Sunil, would be his lasting legacy to the landscape of Indian performing arts?
Well, I think first of all his art itself, it's unique in a sense that his style is absolutely unique, and I I, I people who we always feel that this minimalism, this very slow movement is too abstract for audiences, but I've seen people who have had no exposure to dance of this kind at all, so have no prejudices or nothing in their mind, just watching him and are fascinated by what he's doing. So I think we tend to become, we tend to become gatekeepers, and we say that this will work, this will not work. Well, actually, nobody knows what works and what doesn't work. Audiences are eventually far more open than we are. I think also he is one of the last of the old style of working, the lone crusaders, where you just go on as an individual, you keep working as an individual. Uh, every single moment you're thinking about your work. I think he was a great example of that. Very inspiring from that point of view. I really wish he had more students. I really wish he had somehow passed on that legacy in some manner. Yeah, in terms of dance and style and things. Um, but anyway, it's okay. We have fair number of recordings of his work and something to remember him by in that way, at least for future generations.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Sunil. Thank you for this time. Thank you for the conversation and wonderful insights into Astad, your friend.
Thank you.
And yeah, and I think I've got to know him a little bit better. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Anita, and for this wonderful day you put together. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.